What's up, party people? Joe Cardoza here. Welcome to another all-new episode of Just Three with Joe. Got a great show lined up for you guys today with a fantastic guest. As always, I am joined by writer extraordinaire and mega sports fan, Mr. Mike Patton. But before we get into the conversation with Mike, like we always do, opening salvo, just topics, headlines, and stuff from sports that have caught my attention. So, of course, the first thing I want to talk about is Major League Baseball. Great all-star game. We are now making a playoff push, and I want to talk about the Los Angeles Dodgers. You're talking to a guy who's been a diehard Yankee fan his whole life, so I know I don't have a lot of room to talk. But damn, Dodgers, can we get some players? Max Scherzer, really? On top of already having Clayton Kershaw and one of the best pitching staffs in baseball, now you add a World Series champion and a Cy Young Award winner, and you get Turner. Man, the rich get richer. It's going to be a tough task. Oh, but don't think for a second I'm not counting out my Yankees, because I'm not. I think we're going to get our act together and we can still make a run at this thing. Until we're out of the playoffs, I will always say that my squad has a chance to compete. Second thing I want to talk about is NFL. We are heading into week 1 of the preseason, which is super exciting. Get a chance to see a couple of these rookies get a chance to play. Looking forward to seeing what Trevor Lawrence can bring, Trey Lance, all these young guns, and also some guys that are coming back from injury. It'll be a nice chance to see them on the field. I'm excited, and football's back. It's been a long time. Feels like it's been forever since we saw the Super Bowl. So I, for one, am very excited. The last thing I want to talk about, and probably the most important thing, is we can finally sleep regular hours again. It was great. Don't get me wrong. Really, really love the Olympics in Tokyo, but man, that time change was kicking my booty. Yes, I was the guy waking up for all the United States women's soccer games. I watched every single United States women's softball game. I watched the baseball, basketball. Speed climbing, skateboarding. I, for one, always fully go all in with the Olympic experience, and it was great. But so is sleep. So I'm super excited to be able to get back to somewhat normal hours, at least until we start getting those 10:30 tip-offs with the NBA. But without further ado, let's jump right into our conversation with Mr. Mike Patton. And like I said, once again, we've got a great episode lined up for you guys each and every week, trying to bring the best and newest and freshest faces in sports talk with me. So this week is no different. So at this time, I want to welcome to Just Three with Joe. He does a lot more than just sports. Short stories, poetry, and he is an insider when it comes to all things AFC South. So at this time, we want to welcome to Just Three with Joe, Mr. Mike Patton.
How you doing, man?
I'm doing pretty good, man. How you doing, Mike?
Just living the dream one day at a time.
I hear that, man. I was looking at your social media this morning. I saw that you had your daughter's first day of school pictures, and I was like, man, I didn't need to see that. That just tells me summertime is almost over.
Well, it is over for us.
Yeah, I saw. Looking good, though. Looking good, man, heading into school. We'll have to talk about it off camera about all the different things that have changed and stipulations they got going on with school, obviously, because of COVID.
Yeah, definitely a lot of them.
Hey, they need to, though. It definitely needs to be happening for sure. I wish some of the adults take some of that stuff more serious, but a different podcast for a different day. Let's just jump right into this thing, man. It's fresh off the presses, just ended the Olympics in Tokyo. A lot of scratch your head moments, records being broken. Kind of wanted to get your take and your feel. What were some of the moments, teams, things you saw in the Olympics you liked, didn't like? What was Mike Patton's Tokyo 2021 view?
Well, I would say that the funniest thing was watching all the people eat crow when the men's Olympic team won gold. Because to me, they were a team that were kind of, put together, but none of them had played together. So, of course, obviously, they're going to look bad when they first start playing. And as soon as that happened, the vultures came out. Everyone's jumping on their case. Yep. What's wrong with Team USA? I'm like, well, look, if you don't understand, they don't play together all the time. So basically, once they got comfortable playing with each other, they did what they were supposed to do, and that was it. But, the days of them blowing out teams and all those type of things all the time, they're not going to happen all the time because other places have NBA players too. And also the best players don't commit.
That part. It's also a different game. I mean, a lot of those, we all know at the end of the day, the United States has the best individual talent. So to your point, all they have to do is they have to have that waiting out period for that individual talent to gel and become a team. And most of these other countries have one superstar. Look at Slovenia. It was Luka. That was it. You look at France, Rudy Gobert, and you had Evan Fournier. And after that, I mean, you have some guys that are in the league. I mean, Nicholas Batum's no slouch, but a lot of other countries, it's one guy who plays in the NBA, and it's a bunch of other people that play in Europe. Different style of basketball, and it takes a while to get that team camaraderie together. And I mean, Kevin Durant just picked up from where he left off with that last second shot he had with Brooklyn. He just took it to Tokyo, was just playing out of his mind.
Yeah, definitely. He did some things, but two people who were key on that team. Two people. First person, Drew Holiday. I told people when he brought on that team, I was like, yeah, his defense is going to be great for them, and just his all around play. And it was. He ended up being the starter on the team. First game, he came in off the bench and immediately made an impact. Second player, Draymond Green. Yeah. I mean, he doesn't score. He doesn't really do a lot offensively in terms of putting the ball in the basket. We all know that. But he's a facilitator. He's a guy defensively that makes things happen, and he's a smart basketball player. I mean, who would have thought to knock that free throw off the rim?
Yeah, great play.
Nobody would.
Yeah, I'll be the first one to say that when it comes to, it's funny. It's like Olympic Melo. Everybody loves Olympic Melo, and people got a lot of things to say about Carmelo when he's in the NBA. I'm a Draymond NBA hater, but I love Olympic Draymond. Like you said, man, he had just a lot of little things he does that might not be in the box score. And we didn't even talk about the coaching he did in the sidelines as far as, encouraging his teammates, keeping their heads up. Because like you said, people are out there talking crazy and saying, oh, this is going to be a silver medal team. Maybe even I saw some takes of people saying maybe even a bronze medal, which is just ridiculous to me. But Draymond was right there the whole time to say like, hey, just trust the process, trust in Pop. We'll get things going. And of course, him and KD were quick to hop on social media and let everybody know that they weren't worried the whole time.
Exactly. Kendrick Perkins bore the brunt of that, as he does a lot on social media.
Yeah, Kendrick Perkins is an interesting character, man. I wonder, like, of course, in the age we're in now of social media, you got to say what you have to say to, get clicks and get views. But I wonder with him, how much is that really what he thinks and feels about those players and teams? And how much of it is him saying, if I say this, they're going to go crazy over this one type of deal? I wonder.
Yeah, it's definitely something that makes you think. Some of it may actually be him. Some of it may be him putting on. But, we do know one thing. He owns anything he says and doesn't take it back.
Yeah, I definitely respect that. I think for myself, one of the big things with the Olympics was watching Allison Felix do what she did, which is incredible. Just, man, you talking about shutting up haters. She did a lot of that. And she left with a whole lot of medals. So I think that was one of my big takeaways. And the other big takeaway, I'm not sure about you, but I tried to watch as much stuff live as I could, and man, the Olympics just destroyed my sleep pattern, man. It's going to be a while before I get it back to normal because, like I said, with social media, you couldn't not see it. I mean, there was no way you were going to go throughout the day and not know who won this and won that. Either you were going to see it in your phone or someone was going to tell you. So my thought process was you might as well wake up and just try to catch it live. And it sounded good in theory, but man, those 4 a.m. Women's basketball games, whew, that was a doozy. That was a doozy.
I hear you there. One thing also I would point out too, and much respect to Allison Felix, which I mean, she's amazing. She is now holds the most medals of any track and field athlete ever in terms of the United States.
Yeah, it was incredible. And then to have the relay be her last event, and she did the damn thing in the relay as we expected her to. Right. I definitely enjoyed that for sure too.
Another person to watch out for though. From the United States, though, Athing Mu. Oh. I mean, she actually was 19 years old.
Incredible.
Wins 2 gold medals at 19 years old and doesn't even really look like she broke a sweat.
That's what I was going to say. Like she's having a Sunday stroll, man. I didn't see any kind of pain in her face or anything. I mean, obviously super elated when she won. But like you said, I didn't see anything on her face that made me think like, man, maximum effort or this is strenuous to her. It's like another day at the park for her.
Then Also, another shout out to the volleyball team. Won their first gold medal ever in indoor volleyball, which I thought that was great to see. I actually watched that last match.
Yeah, same here.
Another great thing that happened too is the polo team, the women's water polo team won gold, and they had their first. The first Black woman to actually be a water polo participant. She was the goalie, and she was killing it.
A beast, yeah. And I'm not gonna lie, I don't know about you, but I had never watched a women's water polo match at all, but because when you see people that look like you, it sparks your interest. So I mean, I probably watched two of their group matches, and I watched the gold medal game as well. That was one of my before sunrise wake up days. I got to watch that too.
Yeah, I definitely enjoyed watching her and trying to learn a little bit more about the sport. I mean, I thought it was interesting when they were catching the ball with one hand and like yo-yoing it back and forth. I was like,
Yeah,
man, this almost seemed like a game you played when you was a kid in the pool.
yeah,
But
for sure.
but definitely a better level than what probably I could ever think of doing.
I'm interested to see what's going to happen when the Olympics are in Paris next, and that's when they introduce breakdancing. And so the question I've been asking everybody: who are the judges for this breakdancing competition?
Man, Crazy Legs has got to be a judge, and
Ozone and
also
Turbo.
no, yeah, Turbo and Ozone, they got to be judges, man. They got to be judges.
Now we're not going to talk about the Olympics, not talk about obviously what was the biggest or one of the biggest headlines of the games, and that was Simone Biles putting her mental health ahead of a gold medal. Obviously, I have nothing but respect for her and her decision. I mean, mental health is a serious issue that I'm happy to see people starting to finally take serious. I wasn't too surprised, unfortunately, to see some of the comments that were made by people who thought she was quitting and giving up on her team. But I think she showed by her actions on the sidelines, the way she was cheering on her teammates, encouraging them, giving them advice, that she was still all in. And then half of us would kill for the opportunity to make it to the Olympics, but you sit out for the better of your mental health. You come back and then you win a bronze medal. And people were like, "Oh, she won a bronze, could have been a gold." Hold up, people! It was a bronze medal. Half of us wouldn't even make the team, let alone
Right,
medal in it.
right, and to me, a lot of people were trying to say if I would have done this, I would have done this, I would have done that, and half of the people, if not three-quarters of the people that were saying that, have probably never even jumped on any kind of high beam, turned a flip, turned a cartwheel in their lives. So that right there it tells you anything about anybody. And oh yes, I would have done this, I would have done that. That type of stuff. It's annoying, and I applauded her for having the strength to be able to say, hey, I'm not going to hurt my team. I'm going to do what's best for my team, and try to fight through this. And I know it's not the right thing to do. And also another thing that a lot of people look over that were saying she was a quitter and all this type of things they were saying. She had the twisties, and people were trying to explain what the twisties was, and it was mind-boggling to try to see people that were trying to down and discredit her to say, well, the twisties ain't that bad or anything like that. And I'm like, come on now. Have you ever done gymnastics in your life?
Exactly.
If you
Exactly.
don't know what gymnastics or a twist or what, or if you've never done any of those things, what qualifies you to talk about them?
Exactly. And let's also talk about the fact that with the twisties in gymnastics, do you imagine the kind of injuries you could suffer? I mean, you're talking about torn this, broken that. This ain't basketball or football. I'm not discrediting those injuries, but the injuries you can suffer from gymnastics can be catastrophic if you're not know what you're doing out there, especially if you're not in the right headspace. So, and also too, a big thing too that I think was awesome was think about the opportunity her teammates got. They stepped up to the plate, got an opportunity to shine under tremendous pressure because, I mean, you figure, man, we got Simone, we got this. We got Simone, we got this. All of a sudden, she's out. And, I mean, yes, you were on the team and you knew you were going to have your opportunity to perform, but you always knew in the back of your mind, hey, we got the GOAT that can come raise up our overall score. So, yeah, I have to perform. If I make a mistake here or there, we'll be okay. All of a sudden, that went away. And all her teammates stepped up and performed really, really well, I thought.
Right. I definitely thought so as well. And I was proud to see them step up. And also I was proud to see them stand by Simone and support her. That was
Yeah.
huge.
Nah, for sure, definitely, definitely. So we got to wait until Paris for the next Olympics. But yeah, I think that for a city, a country that didn't want to really hold the games, when we had protests going on during the games, and we're still in the middle of this global pandemic, hats off to the people of Tokyo. I think they did a great job hosting the opening ceremonies. The closing ceremonies were fantastic. I think all things considered, I was very impressed with the games overall, for sure.
Definitely. I was too. And I say hats off to Sonia Richardson Ross and Otto Bolden for their track talk. I loved it. Hats off to Maria Taylor. She did an excellent job. Of course, surprised everybody when she just popped up, boom, on NBC right then and there. And then I'll definitely say that Vince Carter did a great job. I didn't know Vince Carter was going to be doing that.
Same
But
here. I didn't either.
I think he did a great job as well. Him and Maria definitely had some synergy together when they were talking.
Yeah, I mean, real recognizes real. So NBC knew if Maria Taylor's available, we have to pay what we have to pay, scoop her up, and then they're gonna. I think that's only the beginning of what you're gonna see with her and her talent and what she's able to do with the network. I think it was a good move for her. I think it's gonna be bigger and better things ahead for her after what happened with her at ESPN.
Right, definitely. And I want to see how she expands, not only in the sports field but outside of sports. I think she has something to give there as well.
Yeah, kind of like his name escapes me right now. You probably remember his name. He does. He's the co-host now of Entertainment Tonight, but I knew him from ESPN
Kevin
Sports.
Frazier.
Yep, Kevin Frazier might be the same. It was on Fox Sports for a while there as well too. I could see her expanding her portfolio and doing things like that for sure.
Yeah,
She's got the
definitely. And
talent.
then, Mike Hill's another guy that actually did that too.
Yep, yeah, you're right
So
about that.
He's on the Black News Channel now.
That's what it is. I was trying to remember what he was doing now because I seen him for a little bit doing the podcast thing, and then I saw some things on social media with him talking about news. I wasn't sure exactly what network he was on.
Yes, sir. That's where he is.
Hey, good for him. That's another talented brother, man. You knew he wasn't going to hold him down for very long.
He's also a down to earth and real cool guy, man, and definitely is a good person.
That's what we like to hear. Like I said, man, when you see more people that look like you, your interest perks up in whatever they're talking about. And I like to see the wave and the movement we're making, man. Leaving the Olympics and moving to the sport that all of us in America love for the most part, the NFL. Training camp is in full blast right now. We have the full slate of games coming up this week. We had the Hall of Fame game last Thursday with the Steelers taking on the Cowboys. I know that you are the resident, I'll say it, expert and guru when it comes to the AFC South. Man, a lot going on in this division. I mean, we got Deshaun Watson that since you and I hit record in this podcast could have been accused again of something else, some other allegation. It's been that kind of year, unfortunately, for Deshaun Watson. You have the Jacksonville Jaguars of Trevor Lawrence and all those draft picks they have, Travis Etienne and some of the other young players they have there. And, of course, the Colts, they bring in Carson Wentz already. Haven't even got a preseason game in. Oh, he's going to be fine. He's not injury prone. He's out. Tennessee makes a major move by getting Julio Jones to add on to an already talented roster. With all that being said, kind of where are you at when it comes to AFC South?
Oh man, I'm just looking around and watching how teams develop. A lot of these teams, there's a lot of excitement. Well, 3 of the 4 teams, there's excitement, and there's a lot of questions with all 4 teams. I mean, with Houston, you're trying to figure out, can they get all these 1-year contract guys on the same page? I mean, they probably have the most guys on 1-year contracts in the NFL this year. So that's going to be interesting to see if they're able to get everybody on the same page and how Culley does as the first-time head coach after a long time as being an assistant. He does have Lovie Smith, though, to be his defensive coordinator. So Lovie Smith could make some magic happen. However, it's more likely that he won't. But, I'm just saying. But, then, of course, you got Jacksonville. They've got excitement and hope. Urban Meyer's there and things going on, and we're going to be this, that, and the other. And, of course, his first mistake was hiring the strength coach from Iowa, and that whole mess that was there. And then, of course, now he's got all the hype going on, things like that. But, we'll see what happens. And if it actually pans out to be something, I suspect the first year is going to be really rough on him.
Yeah.
And I always wonder, can he sustain when he knows he's going to lose? So that's something I'm wondering to see.
That's a good point.
And of course, also there's also a guy that's rumored to be on the trade market for the Jacksonville Jaguars right now too, and that's C.J. Henderson. Yeah, he's apparently I was reading it was kind of being talked about that by Jeremy Fowler that teams were that they were putting him out there on the trade market and the teams were interested in him. And of course, did talk to a few sources that I knew, and let's just say they probably might not be surprised if he wasn't on the roster to start the season.
Yeah, that's a big – wow, really? That's a decent player right there. I can think of a lot of teams in the NFL that could use him. When it comes to Tennessee, I mean, obviously, Ryan Tannehill signs a big extension. You got Derrick Henry locked up. Tannehill kind of, in my opinion, took a little bit of a dip with his numbers last year, but now you add Julio Jones to an already talented wide receiver corps with A.J. Brown. Of course, you lose Humphries to Washington. What are your expectations of Tennessee this year? AFC Championship game appearance again, or do you think there's still a couple pieces missing from the team?
Honestly, the team is talented enough to go to offensively. They're talented enough to go to the AFC Championship game, if not beyond. A lot of fans here have the expectation that this team can do it this year. However, let's get that dose of reality, which is we don't know what that defense is going to be. I will say this: talk to ESPN's Teron Davenport about it. We had a conversation on there about the Titans defense, and he said a few things. Of course, you do add talent, things like that, but now the defensive coordinator is really the defensive coordinator now. It's not just him, being an invisible guy that doesn't have a title.
Yeah.
So now he's more in control. He's more talking to the players, being active, and engaged with all they're doing. So I think with an off season, some additional players, their defense will be better. The question is, will it be good enough for them to win the AFC? And I think the Chiefs and the Ravens and the Bills will have a few things to say about that.
Yeah, I think a lot of people, me being in the DMV and living in the middle of the Washington-Baltimore area, there's a lot of people who are really, really high on the Ravens. I have to see Lamar Jackson throw the ball consistently. I understand that when you play Baltimore, you're looking at 350. If your defense is really bad, you might get ran over for 400 yards. I mean, their run game is definitely high up there. It's elite. J.K. Dobbins, Lamar Jackson's dynamic. But we've seen it time and time again, man, in the playoffs, in those big games, when the run game gets slowed down or semi-shut down, you've got to be able to make those 4 or 5 really key throws and push the ball downfield. And he's just been inconsistent. And I have to see him be more consistent.
I'll tell you this. I'm not going to put all that on Lamar Jackson. Lamar Jackson, if you watched him play at Louisville, he developed as a passer and got better.
Sure.
But the thing that happened is, look at his offensive coordinator, Greg Roman. I'm going to tell you this. I'm not going to tell you much else about Greg Roman. I'm just going to give you a little bit of his history. Who was the offensive coordinator when the 49ers were running the heck out of the football, but the offensive pass game was a little inconsistent with Colin Kaepernick? Greg Roman.
Yep.
Who was the offensive coordinator in Buffalo when they were kind of sputtering a little bit? Had the EJ Manuel, I believe, at that time.
Oh, God.
And they were kind of run the football, but they couldn't really do much on in terms of pass the football. That coordinator, Roman. Go to the Baltimore Ravens. They can run the football, but their pass game leaves a lot to be desired. Who is their offensive coordinator?
Greg
Roman. So what is the common denominator? I'm gonna let the people listening and watching make the judgment there.
Understood. You said a lot without saying a lot. I still got to see some more from them. When the opportunities arise to throw the ball, I got to see consistency. I mean, I feel the same way about Cam Newton. These are guys that when there's a chance to throw the ball, if you get 10 passing opportunities, 8 of them, in my opinion, got to be decent. What I mean by decent is hit the open receiver, don't overthrow people, don't throw interceptions in tight windows, things like that. Those are 2 guys that have to show me some things to have opportunities. Because when I think about this season, if we just talk about quarterbacks, I'd love to hear who your people are too. I think the 2 quarterbacks that are under the most pressure this season to perform are Carson Wentz and Jameis Winston. I think because Jameis had that season under Drew Brees to learn. You have that year with Sean Payton to learn. And then with Carson, the Colts gave you a chance. They gave up players and gave up picks to get you. That team is really built to win now. Solid young defense, some pretty good weapons on offense. Now it's up to you to kind of shake off the injury-prone tag and show people what you can do. But I think those are 2 quarterbacks that are really under pressure this season.
I'll give you another quarterback that you didn't mention. This team has Super Bowl aspirations. They traded a lot to get him too, and they're pretty cap strapped. That would be Matthew Stafford for the Los Angeles Rams. I mean, he's played in Detroit where they haven't really won much of anything. The Rams are not too far off from being in the Super Bowl when they played against the New England Patriots. So I'll say this. He's got a lot of pressure to be coming in and be that missing piece because that's essentially what he's been claimed to be there. So now I think he's got a great amount of pressure on him as well.
Yeah, no, I would agree with you on that one. I mean, we've seen Matthew Stafford. We're going to find out, is he just a fantasy football stud or is he a really legitimate elite quarterback? That's a guy that every fantasy football team I've had the last 4 years, if he's not my starter, he's my backup because he can roll out of bed, 350, 4 touchdowns, but they lose the game. And so
Right.
we'll have to find out what he can do. I mean, this is the best team. This is the best opportunity, best organization, the best of everything so far in his professional career for Matt Stafford. So we'll have to see what he can do for sure.
Right. That is the to me, that's the toughest division in football. So if he wins that
Yeah.
division, he's going to get a lot of respect of a lot of people.
Yeah, there's no way, knock on wood, it's all around me, that the San Francisco 49ers can be as snake bitten and injury riddled as they were last year. And that defensive line is like the Washington defensive line. They have a lot of great players across that front seven.
Yeah, they did lose Solomon Thomas. I will say that was a guy, but I wouldn't say necessarily he was a guy that was a big contributor. But that's another body you could throw in there. But I think Javon Kinlaw, I think this is the year that he takes that next quantum leap, especially with Bosa beside him. Now he's getting one-on-one matchups. I mean, you forget this guy picked off a pass, I believe he picked off a pass and ran it back for a touchdown. This is a defensive tackle, 315 pounds.
Athlete.
So yeah, I think he comes out this year and makes things happen as well.
Now, circling back to Tennessee, what are your expectations? Because one thing I love about you is in the world of hot takes and people saying crazy stuff, you always come with the dose of reality, like you said. What is your expectations on the Julio Jones being on Tennessee? Because I know people are talking about, oh my God, 1,700 yards, 15 touchdowns. What do you expect from Julio?
I don't expect him to get 1,700 yards, so let's just spell that now. But one thing I will say about Julio Jones is he came in and again I'm going to point to ESPN's Teron Davenport, who does excellent work, by the way.
Yeah, he does.
He actually did. He actually talked to him and he said, he's a team first guy, so he's going to do whatever it takes for this team to win, whether it's blocking or anything of that nature. Do I think he gets 1,000 yards? Yes. Do I think he goes for 1,700 yards? No. Do I think he goes for 1,500 yards? No. I think he gets 1,000. I think he gets at least 1,000, anywhere from 1,100 to maybe 1,200 yards. And the thing is, last year a lot of people were talking about the Titans as a running team, but they were 14 yards short of having a 2,000-yard rusher and 2,000-yard receivers last year. So I'll say this. They're very much capable of getting 2,000-yard rushers. 2,000-yard receivers this year, and I think they will.
Yeah, that would be incredible. It's definitely. Now, before we switch gears and talk about the NBA, I wanted to know, for the people out there listening and watching, who's one player on the Tennessee Titans that none of us are talking about and we should be talking about?
I'm going to give you one guy that really people talked about one game last year. He actually had, I would say, 10 catches in one game. And people were like, okay, this guy's kind of good. Well, now he's probably the starting tight end for the Tennessee Titans. That'd be Anthony Firkser. That would be the guy from Harvard. Yes. So he can actually catch the football. I mean, the thing with him is you got to see about the blocking and things like that. But if you put him out in space, catching the football, 9 times out of 10, he's going to catch the football and he's going to make some things happen. And he's almost like another wide receiver out there on the field. So that's a guy to watch out for to be some sneaky good numbers this year.
So more weapons from Mr. Ryan Tannehill, man. I'll tell you one thing. People talk about how the NFL never stops and it's year round. I think the NBA will give the NFL a run for its money. I mean, we had the NBA Finals. You got a couple hours to rest, it seemed like. And then it was the NBA Draft. You rested for a day or two. Olympics, we all watch. And now Summer League has started. Summer League playing in the background right now. You got 2 young guys, part of the $200 million club, and Luka and Trae Young. What has been Mike Patton's thoughts and observations so far in this very, very fast NBA offseason?
I thought it's been interesting. There's been some teams that have actually been active and trying to get better, and there's some teams that definitely have you scratching your head trying to figure out what are they doing. And then, of course, there's the usual teams that, they're not going to do nothing. You have that thought as soon as you see them in free agency. So that's basically what I saw. I'm definitely, I am a Chicago Bulls fan, so I definitely was very surprised and glad that they actually were aggressive in free agency, despite not really having any money to do anything. They did a lot of different things, and I was very surprised at the imagination of the management there, which is better than the management of was it Gar Forman and John Paxson. So anything that they do this new management does is better than the Garpax relationship that they have with the fans and the team. So
Now
yeah.
I gotta ask you now. You got a young guard there, and Colby White out of
Mhm.
UNC, first round pick, and now you have Lonzo Ball. Obviously, I think it's going to be Lonzo Ball and Zach LaVine in the backcourt. So, what's that do with Colby White? I mean, that stunt his growth. Do you think he's better coming off the bench and providing some firepower? Because this is a guy that coming out of college, the knock was no jumper. Well, I think his jumper is pretty damn solid. He had a pretty good season last year for Chicago. I don't think the Bulls give up and move him, do they?
Well, they can't move him right now anyway because he had a shoulder injury, I think, in the offseason. So he'll be out for a while. So that'll kind of slow down any teams wanting to try to grab him anyway. But once he returns back, I think he can definitely be that guy off the bench that can be a scorer. And I think him and Lonzo on the court together when Zach LaVine goes off the court will be magical because Kobe's a scorer. I mean, people can say what they want about him being a point guard, or this, that, and the other. But the reason why him and Zach LaVine didn't work is because both of them are scorers that need the ball in their hand. And the thing with Lonzo is a guy that can play with the ball in his hand, but he can also move off the ball and help a few things too. And he also added hitting the open jumper in his game. So I think those two, in terms of Ball and LaVine, fit together. And that Kobe comes in and brings in the instant firepower. Because if you look at the team, the last few years, they really haven't had anybody coming off the bench and be like, okay, you can give me 10 to 12 points. They haven't had a guy. They've been trying to make Denzel Valentine that guy forever, and that's just a failed experiment. I'm still trying to figure out how he became a first round draft pick, but that's just me. But hey, it is what it is. No hate towards you, Denzel Valentine, but I just couldn't figure out the fit there and how that happened. But I mean, just they don't have that guy coming off the bench to be like, okay, cool. They haven't had that guy since I would say they had a Ben Gordon, they had an Aaron Brooks that did it, they had a Nate Washington that came off the bench and it would do it too. But ever since then, they've had nobody coming off the bench that can bring you that pop. I think Kobe can be that guy.
That's a long time ago. And I keep on forgetting. Somebody just reminded me the other day. I keep forgetting that y'all got Vooch in that team as well. That's a very, very decent starting five they got there in Chicago.
Well, I'll say this though: decent starting five when it comes to offense. Defense, whole other story.
That's half the NBA, Mike. Come on, man.
Learning's half the battle. They better learn to play defense.
I'm a Wizards fan. The defense get you fired saying that in Washington. Come on now, man. If anybody can understand that, it is me. So now with the NBA kind of going back to the way things were used to be, like pre-pandemic, as far as timing, and we have an 82-game season and not being compressed, I think a lot of teams are going to come back to reality. I think some of the teams we saw that had higher seeds kind of, I don't say took it to the, they made the most of the opportunity as far as the compressed season and being able to have playing games, things like that nature. We're going to have the playing game again next year. My question for you, I want to talk about the Atlanta Hawks. Do you think what we saw in these playoffs this past year is what we should expect in the future? Or do you think that's just a case of a team that got good seeding, playing the Knicks that hadn't been in the playoffs for a long time? You played the 76ers that kind of underachieved in the playoffs? Or is Trae Young and them boys the real deal?
I'll say this. I like the Hawks. I do like the Hawks, and I think they're a good team and they're continuing to grow. However, what I will say is they're going to be better as a team, but they're probably going to finish worse in the conference. So they're going to be solid as a team. They're going to get better. I mean, John Collins and Trae Young, I mean, they're the building blocks of this team.
Yeah.
However, I think the Eastern Conference will be better, so it'll be tougher for them to get where they are. I think, Nate McMillan did a great job with that team, relating to them. And, I think they'll be better record-wise, but I just don't think they'll be, at the upper echelon of teams in the East.
Yeah, because, it's going to start and end, obviously, with Milwaukee and with Brooklyn, probably Brooklyn when they're all full strength. That's starting to – I keep on saying that Harden healthy, Kyrie healthy, and KD, come on, man. That's going to be very, very, very tough to beat.
To me, Harden's got to get in better shape. Gets in better shape. For the team that they have, Harden's got to get in better shape in terms of being able to log more minutes. Because that's, to me, I believe that's where his hamstrings caught up to him.
Yeah, no, he definitely, and I feel like we've been having that conversation with him, needing to get in shape forever. And I mean, I'm starting to see a lot of rumors too about Philadelphia possibly moving Ben Simmons and trying to get into the play for Damian Lillard if he does ask for a trade. And I mean, Damian Lillard matched up with a Joel Embiid, and depending what else Philadelphia has to give away to make that trade happen, I'd have to see what 76ers have left before I can make an accurate prediction on that. Because I mean, the thought of Embiid playing with Dame, yeah, it's exciting. I think that'd be a great 1-2 punch. But what else do you have left? What are you getting? What's Philadelphia getting rid of? Are they getting rid of some of the young pieces, or are they going to be able to get rid of Tobias Harris, some draft picks, and still keep some of those young players? I think it depends on what Portland wants in return, if that happens.
Yeah, I hear you there. Honestly, just Philadelphia's asking for too much. That's the thing. They're asking for the world for a guy that they're trying to basically make it seem like you didn't just see what you just saw in the playoffs when they're asking for things, basically. So I think that he's there this season. There's a possibility it is, and it's going to be Philadelphia's fault because they're asking for the world. But can I see him going to Portland for Damian Lillard? I just don't see Dame ending up in Philadelphia. Now, I will say this. I have been wrong before. If it happens, then hey,
we all.
There you go. But I just don't see it happening. I know Philadelphia will lose their minds to get Dame and Embiid paired together, but I just don't see it happening.
I mean, my question too is Ben Simmons, as he is currently constructed as a player, is he really that bad? I mean, I know the jump shot, I get it, and the free throws have to improve. But a guy that's 6'10", that's a facilitator, that can get you into your offense, that's a beast in the open floor and on the break, I just think he needs to improve his free throws. I'm just going to say that the jump shot's never going to be what we want it to be. So if I'm taking that out the picture, I say knock your free throws down and be aggressive going to the basket, no matter what time or situation is in the game. I think he's fine, personally.
Well, yeah, definitely hit your free throws, attack the rim, things like that. But you also got to remember, I mean, he's getting paid a hefty contract.
Hey, man, that's the way the market is, Mike. It ain't my fault they paying people like that, bro.
Well, I understand that, but with that contract comes responsibility. And the thing is, the next team he goes to, he's going to have to be a part of the leadership. In this team, you notice that Embiid's the leader, and the next person you really think about as a leader in terms of players, you don't think of Ben Simmons. So the next team he goes to, he's going to have to step into the leadership role as well. So, for that much amount of money, you expect leadership as well as solid play on the court.
Now, let's end our NBA conversation talking about the old heads. Los Angeles Lakers, the moves they've made so far. First of all, I'm impressed with the moves they've made so far. Whoever the GM is, Rob Pelinka, LeBron James, it's a collaboration, whatever it is, I don't really care. The moves they've made, I think this team has vastly improved. I think this is the best team Russell Westbrook's ever been on. I won't say it's the best team LeBron's ever been on. I mean, obviously, the Miami Heat team was fantastic. I know Anthony Davis is very dynamic, but just like Carson Wentz in the NFL, we got to see AD on the court. What's your feeling on the Lakers team so far? I mean, they can't do but so much more after this.
I definitely like what they put together. I mean, Pelinka definitely made some magic happen. I mean, did I really think that honestly, I was a year too early on Carmelo because I knew eventually he would end up in LA. I just had the years off. But that would you think about their bench now. You've got Carmelo Anthony coming in. You've got Nunn coming in off the bench, which that was nobody's talking about that signing. That was a huge signing too.
Young guy too.
Him at a discount price come in to be your backup point guard. It's a great signing. Then you have Malik Monk, who can be hot or not off your bench too. So they've got some young pieces. They've got some older pieces. But the funniest thing about a lot of this is a lot of people are talking about how old they are and things like that. And these same people that talk about how old they are forgot how old the Chicago Bulls were when they won their three-peat. So if you want to talk about people being old, look at the Chicago Bulls. They went, 72-10 one of those years. And they were one of the oldest teams in the NBA. So I don't want to hear anybody talk about people being old. Look at the Bulls teams and look what they did. That's all I can say.
Not just that, too, but you got to understand that also their coach is going to do a good job managing minutes. I mean, Frank Vogel's an NBA championship coach. Whatever your feelings are about Frank Vogel, my man got a ring. And I think he's going to do a good job, or at least we hope he does a good job of managing players' minutes, listening to the players listening to their bodies. When playoff time comes around, they'll be ready to play. And I think you and I were talking about players we think are under a lot of pressure in the NFL. I think if you're Anthony Davis, I will say it. It's shut up. It's put up or shut up time. As far as letting people know that you are the next big thing, because the way I saw it was they signed LeBron James. They made the trade for Anthony Davis. The way I've envisioned the Lakers was LeBron would retire and it would be AD's team, and AD would take the Lakers to their next, whatever the next era is in Los Angeles. And to do that, you got to be on the floor. We saw what he can do when he's healthy in the bubble when they won the championship. I'm sure he hears all the whispers that happened this season, and I think he has to come back next year and just dominate, man.
Best thing for him to do is go out there and just be healthy. But I would say that, that's a big thing for him to say. But anyway, to me, honestly, just go out there and play and do what he does. And I think the numbers will come and they will speak for themselves. The biggest thing he needs to do is whatever he's doing in the offseason in terms of training, he needs to change those things. Work on being dynamic, work on being healthy the entire year. The biggest thing I would say for him also to do is get into some yoga. Get into some stuff like that. It works on stretching and stuff like that. Those type of things, the more limber you are, the less you get injured.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. And I mean, after a while, it's been how many years of seasons cut short because of injuries? He's got to try something different. I'm definitely with you on that. I mean, I was talking to somebody before he made his run to the finals this year. I was like, how many soft tissue injuries took Chris Paul out of the NBA playoffs, like in the last 6 or 7 years? And I read somewhere he had gone vegan or tried vegan.
Yeah,
had started doing yoga, and all of a sudden, I'm just saying he's in the NBA finals. And yeah, I know he had some nagging injuries, but they were injuries like the wrist injury, things like that. That's from falling, people hitting you. That wasn't him having a hamstring that keeps him out for the whole playoffs, or something happening to his shoulder where he can't play anymore. And that was the MO for Chris Paul for so long. So I hope Anthony Davis can get himself right, and we want to see him on the court for sure.
Yes, sir. That's what we're hoping. But hey, I always want to see the best versus the best. That's what everyone wants to see, despite people rooting for their teams and wanting this to happen and that to happen. They want to see the best versus the best.
Yeah, no doubt, man. Well, hey, Mike, I appreciate you coming on the show, man. Like I always do, I never let a guest leave without giving them the floor. Let people know where they can find your work. Like I said at the top, man, you do a little bit of everything. Sports. You got a brother who doesn't even like to read anything but sports, reading short stories. You do poetry. You're all over the place. So at this time, Mr. Patton, the floor is yours, sir.
Well, we'll tell you this. I haven't come up with any new short stories yet to put out there, but, I have been working on some. So, you'll probably see some of those probably within the next month or so. Okay. When I do get a little bit of time. But I am a freelance writer. So the best place you can find my work is if you go to Twitter at Mike Patton 82. You'll see some of everything. You'll see me talk. You'll see me, put out poetry, anything like that. I do all those different types of things. You can find my work at Tennessee Tribune, which is TennesseeTribune.com. You can find my work at the Nashville Voice, which is thevoicenashville.com. I mean, you can find me writing for the 3-point conversion, which I have something coming up this week. Or is it next week? Oh, this week or next week. Definitely there talking about the AFC South. And, well, this time I'm actually throwing you for a curve, but you'll see it when it comes out. But you can definitely find me writing at 3-point conversion as well. It's 3pointconversion.com. Raphael, he already threw me 20 cents, so I could go ahead and talk about that today. But, definitely you can catch me a few different places. But the best place you can catch up to me is on, Twitter, Mike Patton 82, and also, of course, the podcast, Touring the AFC South. Let's see, last episode, who did I have? I had Dr. Aaron Wilson on talking about Carson Wentz and Quentin Nelson's injury, which the funny thing is it's Carson Wentz's left foot and Quentin Nelson's right foot, I believe, and they both have the same injury, which is they need to both go play the lottery because that doesn't happen very often. And then also I had Jake Arthur, who actually covers them for Colts on SI. So he actually is there at practices every day. So, definitely some good stuff for people who don't know the AFC South. I think you should know the AFC South because one of your potential champions could be from the AFC South.
Hey, I agree with you. I agree with you, man. Like I said, just a well-rounded guy. One of my go-tos when it comes to sports and good conversations, and he always got a cup full of reality for you when people start flying off the rails. And he also has one of my favorite columns. That's kind of when I first met you online. It caught my attention because I was like, "Who is this brother right here?" The All Ski Mask Way column he does of guys that got contracts.
I had to retire that one, man. I had to
Oh
retire
man,
that, man.
I loved it.
Look, I'm trying to come home and live safe at night, man.
I loved it. I loved it, bro. And it was always like one or two guys where I was like, damn, you're right. That person didn't do nothing this season. They made how much money? So I really, really did enjoy that. So, like I said, though, I appreciate you coming on the podcast, Mike, and we'll definitely have you on again soon, my man.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
All right, my pleasure. That was Mike Patton. And like I said, you can find Mike all over the internet talking about everything besides sports, but sports is his go-to. As always, I want to thank everybody for tuning in to Just Three with Joe. I'll be back next week. Make sure you go to 19mediagroup.com. So much content, I'm telling you. As I'm recording this podcast, 4 or 5 new episodes of different shows probably dropped. That's how much content we're going on there. And also make sure you check out nutsandboltsports.com. But this podcast and this show is brought to you by 19 Media Group. As always, I am Joe Cardoza. You've been watching Just Three with Joe. I'll be back next week with another great guest and 3 more topics.